Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. I am Sean. Here's another week in review. I might be changing the format of these videos up a little bit in the future because they just don't get very many views. So I might try something different. So we'll see about that going forward. But just for now, proceeding with the old format. So, first off, in terms of reading, I have kind of been in a little bit of a reading slump, and the reason is because usually I read 4 to 5 books simultaneously. That's just kind of my sweet spot. If I do any fewer than that, it does not feel like a challenge for me, so I'll just not really read. So I like to be reading about 5 books simultaneously, currently reading. But part of what happens as a result of that is I am a slow reader. And since I may only read like one chapter out of each book I'm reading, like every 1 or 2 weeks, it takes me a really long time to ever finish a book. So as a result, I am reading the same 5 books for months and months, and I just kind of get tired of them, but I don't quite want to DNF them yet. It's just I'm tired of reading it, and I'm not even like halfway through them yet. So it's just going real slow and it's taking really long. So I've been really kind of struggling to figure out a way to help me read more. And kind of, I think what the problem is I don't really have that sense of fulfillment where I get bored with what I'm currently reading. I don't want to quit it, but I don't feel the urge to keep reading it necessarily. And I want to read something else, but if I just add a new book to my currently reading, then I'll be reading 6 books simultaneously and make even slower progress. So it's been kind of a challenge for me. And so what I did is I asked the AI. I am like totally giving my life over to AI, just letting AI make all my decisions for me. And so I explained my whole thought process out to the AI just to say, this is why I read 5 books at once. I want to read 5 books at once. I don't want to DNF the books I'm currently reading. So what do I do, AI? Please help me out. Like, can you see a way out of this? And what the AI suggested is that I create a bench basically of books that I don't DNF, but I just put them away for the time being. If I just don't really want to read those books right now, they are slowing my progress. So what the AI suggested is to bench those books basically, not DNF them, just put them aside and add new books to my currently reading list to replace those books, because that way I'll actually be interested in the new books I add. So it will give me that sense of wanting to try something new. And then if ever I just get tired of the new books, I could bench whatever I don't like and take something off my bench and move it back into my currently reading. Or if I just never want to move something from my bench back to my currently reading, then just DNF it, and then I have an extra spot on my bench basically. So I thought that was an intriguing idea. So actually I think I was currently reading 4 books simultaneously, so I decided to bench 2 books and add 3 new books to replace them. So one of the books I benched was Milan Kundera, the Book of Laughter and Forgetting. I am somewhere probably about 35-40% into the book, and I'm liking it. It's just I didn't really feel too much of an urge to keep reading it, so that's one of the books I decided to bench. I also decided to bench The Complete Sherlock Holmes by Arthur Conan Doyle. I read the first 2 books in the Sherlock Holmes series, but I'm not quite even halfway done with this book, and this is just the first of 2 volumes of all of Sherlock Holmes books, the Sherlock Holmes books by Arthur Conan Doyle. So yeah, I kind of wanted to bench this because this is also not something off my 26 to read in 2026. So I kind of felt I'm enjoying it to an extent. I just don't really want to keep reading the Sherlock Holmes books right now. So I decided to bench this as well. So the 3 books I added to my currently reading are, first off, 2001: A Space Odyssey by Arthur Arthur C. Clarke. I was going to say Arthur Conan Doyle. And then I was like, what? Why am I saying Arthur Conan Doyle? But no, Arthur C. Clarke. Okay, two Arthurs. I have a signed book by Arthur C. Clarke somewhere around here. Oh, it's right there. So 2010 Odyssey 2, signed by Arthur C. Clarke. So I have not seen the movie yet, 2001 A Space Odyssey. I saw it at Walmart a few weeks or maybe a few months ago. So I went ahead and bought a DVD of 2001 A Space Odyssey. So I am reading the book first. This is off my 26 to read in 2026, 2001 A Space Odyssey. So I am halfway through the prologue, which is kind of like pre-history or whatever, like caveman stuff. I have seen like the first clip or whatever of 2001, where it's just the monkeys or gorillas or whatever are just doing ape things, and then I think one of them throws a rock or something at an enemy, and then there's a really abrupt jump cut in the movie where the rock turns into a spaceship. So it's just kind of like, whoa, what the hell happened there with that jump cut? And I think what it represents, and again, I have not seen the movie yet, I just know that's how it starts or whatever, is I think it shows that from that moment where early man first used like the tool as a weapon or whatever, where they use the rock as a weapon or whatever they throw, it transforms into a spaceship to kind of show the technological development. Like throwing that rock eventually led to man being in space, you know. That's just because we realized like using rocks as a weapon, then we realized, oh, we could sharpen the rock to make a spear, and then, you know, it just develops from there into eventually outer space travel and stuff. So I think that's why that scene is there. But in this book, so what Arthur C. Clarke does is he shows more of that prologue, and in fact it goes on for like 50 pages or more. So it's almost like the first quarter of the book is just that prologue, just talking about the basically caveman days. Like a quarter of the book, that's what this book is about. So yeah, I'm going to read the book first, 2001 A Space Odyssey, and then try the movie. But I'm enjoying that pretty well. I wanted to read that book, even though I don't really like science fiction fantasy very much, just because it's 2001 A Space Odyssey. I know it's widely considered one of the greatest movies of all time, and I've never seen it, and I've never read the book. And of course, as an author and a reader, I like reading the book adaptations or whatever to compare the books with the movies. And one thing I'll say about it, I'm kind of ducking out of frame here. Arthur C. Clarke wrote this book, 2001 A Space Odyssey, while they were making the film. So Arthur C. Clarke was one of the writers, or the main writer, or I don't know, of the film. And so they were doing both simultaneously. He was writing the novel as he was also writing the screenplay or whatever for the film. So they were working together. So Stanley Kubrick or whatever, however you pronounce his name, he was kind of doing his own thing with the movie. I think he was kind of taking it in, I don't know exactly how to say it, but really kind of a psycho something standpoint, where just kind of blow your mind kind of stuff, like what the hell is this, just like a surreal experience, where that's what Kubrick is kind of focusing on. But Arthur C. Clarke is kind of wanting to ground it a little bit more in science. So I think that's how the film is. The film is a little bit more, I don't know if psychedelic is the right word, but just like, what the hell is this? Whereas the book is a little bit more grounded in science, I think, is what he's kind of going for. But yeah, so they were writing both, or they were making both as they were doing it. So it wasn't like they just made the movie based on the book. They we're making both simultaneously. So they're a little bit different. The next book I added to my currently reading, just to get like, you know, something fresh for me, something new, this is also a book on my 26 to read in 2026, The Chaneysville Incident by David Bradley. I said previously in my 26 to read video, I didn't know if this is like a novel or a history book, but of course once I started reading it, I found out it is a novel. And then once I took a closer look, right down there in small print, you could see it says a novel. So yeah, I still don't know how much, if any of this is based on history, like you know, real events or not. But yeah, so far I'm liking it pretty well. I thought just by the cover that it would take place maybe around like the 1900s, 1920s, something like that. And instead it seems like the protagonist is actually, I don't know when exactly, but it's sometime maybe around the 1960s, 1970s perhaps. But I think what he does is he looks something into his family history and he sees something about how his family or whatever was involved with whatever, with slavery or the Ku Klux Klan or whatever. And so I don't know exactly what happens from there, but yeah, I think that's kind of what the book is about. This kind of historical scholar guy looking at what, you know, his direct ancestors were involved with. So yeah, I don't know. So far it's going pretty well. I think the writing is pretty good. I'm not having a problem with that. On the cover it says it rivals Toni Morrison's Song of Solomon or Ellison's Invisible Man. I did not like Toni Morrison's book Beloved or Ellison's Invisible Man. I just tried reading that a few months ago. I just don't like the constant focus on race and racism. But so far with this book, I wouldn't really even know without looking at the cover or whatever that it's really about race at all, or that the protagonist is black if he is. I'm kind of assuming he is. That's not even clear really at this point. It just seems like it's just a regular story, so I kind of like that. I don't like the constant focus on race and racism. So far it's just proceeding like a regular story to me. So far I'm liking it pretty well. I think the writing's pretty solid. I'm not really having any problems with it whatsoever. So I was kind of thinking if this book was just like another Toni Morrison or Ellison. I can't really think of his first name right offhand. Ellison. I think I have one of his books like right over there just a few feet from me if I didn't burn it. What is his name? Oh, Ralph Ellison. So yeah, I probably wouldn't have thought of that. I was thinking some kind of initials or something like J.P. Ellison or something. Anyway, so yeah, I didn't like either of those books. So to compare this book to those, I was kind of thinking, I probably won't like this. But so far, I'm liking it pretty well. No problems with it. So going good so far. I don't know how much I've read so far. Not too much, just 14, 15 pages. So not a bad start. The last book I added to my currently reading was The Color of Money by Walter Tevis. So, of course, I think last year I read the first book by him, or first book in the series or whatever. I don't know if it was his first novel. It was called The Hustler, which is... it was made into a movie with Paul Newman and, what's the other guy's name who played Minnesota Fats? Oh, darn it. I'm really drawing a blank on names today. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, G. G kind of sounds right. H, I, J, K, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, and Z. Maybe I'll just look that up as well. I have a Blu-ray of it. I got it, Jackie Gleason. Yeah, so did I say Jay? Anyway, so yeah, Jackie Gleason and Paul Newman, The Hustler. One of my favorite movies growing up. I was really into pool for a while, so I just love that movie. I've also seen the movie for this one, the sequel to it, which has Paul Newman and a young Tom Cruise. and they're playing 9-ball instead of straight pool. So I like that movie fairly well, but between the two, I definitely like The Hustler a lot more. I did not even buy a copy of The Color of Money when I got this movie, The Hustler. I just bought that off Amazon or whatever, just because I really liked it. And I chose not to buy The Color of Money just because I was like, meh, I know how it goes pretty well. I don't really feel much of a desire to watch it again. I mean, I still remember it very well, but I did want to have a copy of the Hustler movie. So yeah, anyway, I don't like the movie The Color of Money as much as The Hustler, but still, I wanted to read the book because I like reading books that have movie adaptations, just like I said. So I wanted to see how the book compares with the movie, and so far it is completely different. Because so far, instead of the main character, Fast Eddie, teaming up with the younger pool shark guy who is played by Tom Cruise, instead it actually shows Minnesota Fats from the first Hustler book. They basically get together because they Fast Eddie wants to go on a pool tour with Minnesota Fats, like playing against him since they're kind of rivals when they were younger, to play against him today, basically, you know, to kind of come out of retirement and play again. So that's what's happening so far. So that's very different than The Color of Money movie, because Minnesota Fats doesn't appear in that movie at all. So yeah, I just like that so far pretty well. So yeah, going pretty good so far. In terms of my other reading, I do not think I read anything this past week of either, what's on there? It may have been like a raisin or something from Nibbler. Robert A. Heinlein, Starship Troopers. I don't think I read any of that this past week. Or A Gentleman in Moscow by Amor, Towles. I don't think I read anything of that either. Just not too, I don't know, interested in reading these past week. I've been kind of focusing on other things. But still, I do have them on my currently reading pile. So, to kind of sum up, my currently reading now is The Color of Money, The Chaneysville Incident, 2001 A Space Odyssey, Starship Troopers, and A Gentleman in Moscow. Those are my current reads. So what I think I'll do is I think I'll have a maximum of 5 books on my bench. So if I get tired of any of those currently reading, I could bench 3 of them and put 3 more books on my currently reading. And then if I do want to, you know, bench anything else, I'll either need to bring something off my bench or officially move it to a DNF. So that's kind of how I'm proceeding now with my reading. So, yep, that was a suggestion from AI. I guess the next thing I'd have to talk about would be my writing progress. And again, I know I just imagine everyone is like, nope, I'm gone, goodbye. I've made pretty good progress this last week writing The Descent of Inanna. I think when I left off last week, I was on chapter 27, and now I am on chapter 33. I've currently started the first half of that chapter this morning, and so once this video is all filmed and edited and posted, then I'll probably continue writing that chapter 33. So yeah, so this past week I wrote all the rest or whatever of chapter 27 up to chapter 33, and it's going pretty well. Altogether, it's about 50 pages I wrote this past week. Not a whole ton of progress compared to my previous week when I wrote between chapters 5 to 27, so a lot of chapters there, like 22 chapters written or whatever the previous week, compared to only 6 or so this week. So not as many chapters, but I've really kind of been hitting points in the book where I usually would have like lost interest. So for instance, one problem I was kind of having is that, gosh, I don't know how to say this without like going into a ton of backstory, but kind of the problem I was having this past week, the issue I was dealing with, is what I previously wrote. I basically completed Inanna's character arc where she goes from kind of a lowly, struggling major goddess where she's trying to do things and she's kind of failing at them. And yeah, if I just talk about it way too much, I'll be talking about it forever. But basically, earlier in the book, I'm struggling with Inanna trying to become the, like, ultimate cosmic goddess she wants to be, and struggling with that, trying to attain that level of power. And finally what happens is she attains that power. So I got her to the place where she wanted to be. I basically got her to her peak strength. And basically what needs to happen from that point is I kind of need to show her fall, because this is part of a series, The Descent of Inanna. So you'll simply know, if you've read the other books in the series, which you should have done before you read The Descent of Inanna, you'll basically know Inanna is not in the future books. So you'll know she doesn't stick around, something's going to happen to her to make her fall, because she's not in the other books, So basically, yeah, what needs to happen in the rest of the book is I need to show her fall, how she falls from being peak strength, like no one can challenge her at this point. So I need to show how she actually has her demise. And the thing is, I didn't really want to write that too much, because it's just difficult and sad, because it's like I finally got her to her max strength and now I need to tear her down again. And I was just like, oh, I don't really want to do that. I feel so proud that she got to this point and now I have to destroy her. And I don't want to do that. And I also feel readers are going to be disappointed, like, yay, she's finally max strength and now I'm going to have to start planting the seeds of her destruction. And so I was just really struggling with that, not wanting to write that, and also just thinking readers are going to hate this. I've built her up, I've had her struggle so much to get to this point, and now I'm going to have to start laying the groundwork for her ultimate failure. And I don't want to write that. And then another thing I was also struggling with it as well is usually how that happens is, of course, the characters will start making mistakes, because how does she collapse? It has to be partly by the mistakes she makes. She has to do things that will lead to her destruction, So the trouble with that, writing all of that, is to do that in a way that does not feel forced to readers. Like, I've spent so much time getting her to this point where she's at. So if I just started having her make mistakes that will lead to her ultimate collapse, I think readers would think, oh, why did you have to have her do that? That is stupid, Why does she do this stupid thing? Why does she do this evil thing? Why does she make this bad decision? Why can't she make a good decision? And of course it's going to be because I need her to collapse, because she's not there in the rest of the series, so she has to fall. It just simply has to be done. She has to have her fall. So usually when writers do that, gosh, again, I could talk for so much about this and I just ramble and rant forever. But a lot of times when writers do that, it feels very forced. Like, okay, I need to start planting the seeds of her destruction. So this bad thing is going to happen, or this bad seed is going to be planted, and she's not going to properly do anything to keep that bad seed from growing. That's the seed of her destruction. So of course she's going to fail to spot that. She's going to fail to do anything about that. That's usually how a lot of writers would write things. But instead, kind of something I decided is that what if, for a lot of those things, she actually does make the right decision? And again, I don't want to go into details about what I mean, because I'd just be talking forever. But basically what I kind of decided to do along the way is, when I get to several of those moments where usually I would be planting the seeds of her destruction, she actually makes good decisions. She makes wise decisions a lot of the time. So it's not just at this point, since I need her to fall basically, at every point she's going to start making the wrong decision and being an idiot and being tyrannical or whatever, so she deserves what she gets. Instead of doing that, I actually show that she is reaching a point where she is wise and she is doing things that she should do. She is making smart decisions for a lot of things. She is being real thoughtful. She's not just suddenly turning into a complete moron. And the decisions she makes actually furthers her character to actually show why she is developing. So instead of having it be where the character is built up to her max strength, and instead the only way you could go from there is downhill, instead what I actually do is I actually kind of make her ascend even more, because I show how she is making good decisions, how she's making wise decisions, whatever, where instead of basically plummeting to her inevitable doom, she's doing things that are actually kind of slowing that descent, where she kind of spots things that, uh-oh, this could be a bad thing, so she actually responds properly to it. So eventually, yes, she is going to wind up having a demise, you know? But it doesn't feel like it's too forced, because she's doing things that actually shows her development as a character, how she's developed in wisdom and all of those things. So the reason I say I like that is because kind of what I was thinking about once I had her at her max strength was thinking, like I say, it's only downhill from here for her. She's at the top of her power, so she can only start descending, to make wrong decisions, to start becoming tyrannical and all those things. But instead, I kind of decided to reverse it, where she makes good decisions actually. And I guess one thing I'll say, and again, I don't want to go into too much detail, but just as an example of what I mean by her making good decisions, there is a certain weapon that she acquires that helps her get to her max strength, a really powerful weapon she acquires. And something a character says is that that weapon, that tool, will ultimately corrupt her if she keeps it. And so readers are of course going to think, oh, yep, she's going to keep that weapon and that's going to corrupt her. Well, what I kind of decided is I don't actually need her to keep that weapon to have her ultimate demise. That weapon is not the core reason why she collapses in the end. There's another reason she's going to have her eventual fall. So instead of keeping that weapon and being corrupted by it, she actually listens to the person and decides, okay, yes, this weapon helped give me my max strength, but instead of keeping it and letting it corrupt her, she decides to get rid of the weapon, because she realizes, okay, if this is going to corrupt me, I'll get rid of it. You know, I'll get rid of that power willingly, rather than to keep it and ultimately lose everything. So that's just an example of how she makes a good decision. And kind of the clear parallel is with the Ring of Power in Lord of the Rings. That's kind of what that weapon or that tool represents, is it will corrupt her just like the Ring of Power. It could give her a lot of power, but at the same time it will corrupt her and lead to her fall. Well, she actually realizes, okay, this is a bad power, I'll get rid of it. And that's a point where I think usually readers would think, oh, she's going to keep the power and she's going to get corrupted by it, just like the person warned. She's a complete moron. She's going to keep this corrupt weapon because she wants power for herself. That's what readers are going to think she's going to do. But instead she does the opposite. She realizes, oh, this power will corrupt me. I don't need that power. I will get rid of it. And so that should make readers fall even more in love with her, realizing she's not just taking the course of the stupid, power-hungry queen who wants ultimate power. She passes on that power because she realizes it's bad and it'll lead to her demise. So that actually shows she makes a good decision. So Yeah, so that's kind of the issue I was having at this stage in the book, was thinking if I have to show her fall, I'm going to have to show her making bad decisions, and readers aren't going to like that because I finally got her to this point where she's at the height of her power, and then all of a sudden she starts making stupid decisions. Well, I don't do that. I actually have her making good decisions and showing that her character has developed. She's not just a immature, power hungry queen or whatever. She realizes good and bad things. And so she actually makes good decisions. So I really like that. And that helps me fall more in love with the character. And it makes her ultimate demise a little bit, I don't know how to say it. I kind of want to say a little bit less tragic or a little bit less forced, because she's not just being a complete power hungry idiot. She's making good decisions. And I really like that for her character, because even though there are seeds being planted that will lead to her destruction, she has actually grown as a character. She is stronger as a character because of everything she has gone through. She's not descending, she's not falling. She is still becoming the fully powered queen she wants to be, if that makes sense. Hopefully it does. Again, I'm trying to be as brief as I can about this. But yeah, that basically shows, instead of her just being a complete tyrannical idiot, she is actually being wise and she is being good. So I really like that development for her character. And one more thing I'll say about it just before wrapping this up is that what I'm writing now, I don't want to go into the details at all because I'd be talking way too much about it. But something it does is what I'm working on now. They're going to basically begin the hunt for a real powerful old god, basically, and wind up basically killing the old god. And what I really like about it is I'm going to be using most all of the characters who I've introduced already in the book. They are all going to come back and play into this storyline. Again, I don't want to go into details about it at all, but so many of the major characters in the book will have something to do, some kind of role with hunting that old god creature that they're going to go after. Every major character almost has a role in what's going to happen. So I really like that, and just the way they all tie in together and the way it shows their different character goals, what each character wants. There's just a lot of really good characterization there, a lot of really good lore, a lot of stuff I want to set up for later in the series. There's so much that is all coming together for this next major storyline, and it's just coming together really well. Again, I can't go into details at all. I'd be talking for hours, literally. But yeah, that stuff I'm coming up with for this next major storyline is chef's kiss perfect. I really like the way it's coming together. So that's pretty much all I've got to say about the Descent of Inanna. So yeah, this last week I went from chapter 27. Now I'm at chapter 33, about 50 pages of stuff I've written. Pretty good stuff. Even though I haven't written a whole ton of pages, I've reached points, several points this last week where usually I would have probably stopped writing for weeks or months or potentially even years, because I kind of reached moments where I'm thinking, for whatever reason, oh, I don't like the direction this is going. I don't want to do this to Inanna. But I found ways around it to make the story even better. So instead of reaching points where it's like, oh no, I don't want to write this scene, instead it's points where it's like, oh, this scene is going to have massive effects, but I love it. I love the way it plays out. It plays out perfectly, rather than being a scene that feels very forced, where I'm just trying to basically plant the seeds of her destruction. It all comes off really well. So I'm really enthusiastic about the Descent of Inanna. I'm really happy with that book. I can't wait to finish it and hopefully have people read it. Okay, so that's pretty much it for writing stuff. I guess just kind of personal related stuff. One of the first things is I tried a new type of food last night. Basically, there's these chicken strips from Morningstar Farms. Not sponsored. So yeah, these are like plant-based chicken stuff. So I tried them in a salad last night and they were really good. So yeah, I might be having more salads from now on and just adding more salad stuff to the salads. And I also had a plant-based dressing. Oh, I am wearing my Animal Lives Matter shirt. So yeah, I'd still say I'm vegetarian. I'm not vegan because I do have eggs and I do have, what's the other thing? Milk. But actually, usually the milk I have is almond milk. And I did that before becoming vegetarian, mainly just because whole milk has a lot of calories or fat or whatever. So I switched to almond milk years and years ago. So yeah, I usually don't drink that much whole milk. Since I've been vegetarian, whatever, I think I've probably only bought whole milk once. And that was just a few weeks ago because they didn't have any almond milk where I was shopping at. There's also some other different kind of chicken tenders, plant-based chicken tenders I like. I could have tried those, but since these chicken strips or whatever are specifically for salads, I tried these. And I also like some things this company makes, like their plant-based corn dogs, I think are pretty good. Maybe some other stuff as well. I think maybe bacon strips and also sausage links. I think the same company makes them and I like them really well. Plant-based foods, plant-based meats, I think can be really hit or miss. Some of them can be pretty raunchy and I just don't like them. They're not worth ever eating. But others I think taste pretty good and I like them a lot. And so yeah, these I really liked, so I might start be using these to make a lot more salads nowadays. So yeah, just kind of eating a little bit healthier, because as a saying goes, you can't really outrun a bad diet. I've not really been too interested in health lately at all. I do go to the gym a bit, maybe at least once a week, just to do the treadmill. Not so much, I'd say, for health, because I don't want to go into it too much here because I don't know, video may get flagged or whatever. But yeah, so I'll just say for the like animal stuff, for the meat stuff, the vegetarian stuff, I don't do that so much for health reasons, more for ethical reasons, because I want to, as much as possible, minimize needless destruction of life. I want all lives as much as possible to be able to live to their full potential. So that's why I converted kind of to being vegetarian, not full vegan, but pretty close to it. Part of my reason is, like, for eggs, you don't have to kill chickens or anything to have eggs. The chicken is going to lay the eggs regardless. So you're not killing a chicken when you have eggs. If they're not fertilized or whatever, it's just an egg. It's not a little wee bitty human, or definitely not a wee bitty human, but it's not a wee bitty chicken, basically. It's just an egg. They're going to lay them regardless. Same essential idea for milk, even though I don't drink much milk, is you don't have to kill a baby cow or whatever to get milk. The mama's gonna produce milk anyway, and maybe more than the baby needs. But yeah, like I say, I don't drink that much, especially whole milk. Mainly I just drink almond milk, which I know also has something to do with bees, because I think they use a lot of I don't know, there's something about bees with almond milk. Something I'm kind of considering there is planting a little bit more bee-friendly plants, like on our property or whatever, just to attract, you know, honeybees or whatever, because, you know, the earth needs them. So that would be kind of something I would do in return for having almond milk, because like I say, there's something about almond milk with bees. So to plant some bee-friendly flowers and stuff to help with the bee population, because we need bees. Bees are good. I swear, so many times walking from my car to the house or whatever, a bee will like start flying around me like the whole way, the whole walk from my car to the house. a bee will just be circling me. Kind of what I've started to do lately is I'll just stop and the bee will just circle me a couple times, and then it'll realize like, oh, this human doesn't have any nectar or whatever to eat. So then the bee just goes off. They're real curious creatures, but yeah, if I just walk from my car to the door, I'll just be having one bee circle me the entire time. So I just kind of, nowadays, I just kind of stop in place and let it get a good look at me and then go off and do whatever it wants to do. Because, yeah, I, of course, always get nervous around bees because getting stung is not really a good feeling. But bees are just really curious and they just want to see like, oh, are you food? And then they'll just realize, oh, nope, you're not food. Okay, goodbye. I'm already beginning to ramble far too much. So there was that. Oh, I was kind of touching on the gym a little bit. Something I did yesterday is I actually did some more strength building stuff because usually I just do the treadmill. So yesterday I kind of felt the desire to actually try some of the strength machines or whatever at the gym. Something I never do. I've never done that. And yeah, I don't know so much to say if it's like a health related decision or what. I guess part of it is I was just watching a video the other day where the person said something about how they go to like the gym every like 5 days a week or something, and they said because they have too much pride in themselves to let themselves become fat. And so I was just kind of thinking to myself like, yeah, I don't have a good diet because I really don't have very much pride in myself or whatever. Again, I want to be careful about what I say. But yeah, that kind of impacted me a little bit because it's kind of made me realize even more how little I care about myself. And so it's just kind of thinking, well, I don't know, should I do that more? I don't really want to. I don't have that same desire, basically. I don't have that same kind of pride in myself. I'm kind of more of the opinion that I'll just let myself go and whatever happens, happens. And that's just the natural course of things. And I'm ready for that. But yeah, just kind of watching that video, it kind of made me think a little bit more that, you know, that person has pride in themselves, that they want to look good where they're at. Even though they were about my same age, they took a lot of pride in keeping themselves in shape. And so it's just kind of made me realize a little bit that, you know, mentally and physically, I'm not that good. I'm not in that good of condition. So it's kind of realizing that maybe work at it a little bit. And maybe that will help give me some of that pride. And yeah, so that's kind of why yesterday I went through like all the strength machines at the gym, and I might start potentially doing that potentially like after work. I might potentially start going to the gym after work and maybe just do some of the stuff on the machines instead of the treadmills a couple days a week or whatever. So yeah, I'm kind of thinking I might try that a little bit and see how that goes. So yeah, that's kind of a development for me in my life, is potentially begin doing more strength building stuff at the gym rather than just doing like 1 day a week on the treadmill. I don't really know much what else to say too much. Yeah, I think that's probably about it. So I might be changing the format of these videos up a little bit in the not too distant future. I don't know. I'm kind of iffy about that. I know these videos don't get very many views. Of course, no one's going to be looking up, oh, what was Sean Holt's week in progress? You know, what did Sean Holt do this week? No one's going to be searching that on YouTube. So that's probably why these videos don't get very many views at all. So I might try changing up the format a little bit to have a little bit more clickbaity titles. But we will see how that goes. I don't know. I don't know how much I want to lean into that or not. But anyway, I think that is it for this video. Oh, I think next week I might be borrowing the parakeet from my dad because he's going to be going on vacation to Palm Desert, I think. So I might be having my old parakeet over to bird sit. And so that will be very interesting, seeing Nibbler and my old parakeet together, just to see their relationship with each other. I imagine it will be quite eventful. I think the birds would be very noisy, wanting to talk to each other and wanting to get out and play with each other. But the danger with that is Nibbler is like 2 or 3 times bigger than the parakeet. So Nibbler can probably really easily kill a parakeet. Nibbler is a green-cheeked conure, so he just way oversizes the parakeet. So I don't really want those birds to be together unsupervised, because Nibbler might kill the parakeet. But I don't know. I've had them together before and they got along pretty well. They seemed to like each other, and yeah, but it's definitely something where I don't want to leave them alone together, because if they ever get in any kind of fight, I mean, Nibbler probably could kill the parakeet. I mean, his whole beak is about the size of the parakeet's head. But yeah, I'm sure Nibbler would really enjoy that, realizing like, oh my gosh, there's another bird in the room. Hello, let me see you. Let me hang out with you. And yeah, so he would probably really like that. So that's going to be happening midway into this next week, I think. So that'll be a major development. So when I do my next video, those birds should potentially be together, if that transaction, that whatever works out okay, if they can be together at all. It's always a danger, because whenever you move an animal or whatever, you never know if they're going to like survive that, because it's kind of such a traumatic thing to move them. You know, sometimes it just doesn't work out. And I think the parakeet is quite older, so hopefully nothing bad happens. But we'll see how that goes. Hopefully it's not going to be too noisy. If I do another of these videos next week, prepare potentially for a lot of noise in the background. So yeah, that is it for this video. Thank you guys for watching. Hope to see you in another video. Sorry for talking so much. Bye.
2, 3, 4.